Bonjour à tous, c'est Badr, j'espère que vous allez bien. Aujourd'hui on se retrouve pour faire de l'anglais et donc c'est un nouveau réveil MyPrepa avec Margot. On vous aide à bien commencer votre journée de travail et cette semaine donc on va commencer par de l'anglais, on va faire des rappels en grammaire. Donc merci Margot d'être avec nous. J'espère que tu vas bien, je te laisse la parole.
Yes, merci. Yes, so un point un peu problématique parfois c'est la traduction de de, un nom de quelque chose. En anglais on a plutôt trois possibilités, donc of, apostrophe s ou créer un nom composé de nom plus nom. Alors, so let's say there are general rules that can help you, but to be honest there are also a lot of exceptions. So bear in mind that just try to learn things by context. You'll get a feel of it the more you read and the more you're exposed to English. But generally speaking, when you want to use apostrophe s, so I'm just going to go quickly over how you form the possessive with apostrophe s, just for a quick reminder. So for singular nouns, of course you just add the apostrophe and the s. And even if the singular noun finishes in s, you still add the apostrophe s, okay? There are a couple of exceptions. With the word sake, for example, you normally don't put the s, you just put the apostrophe with words that end in an s sound. So for example, you would write for goodness sake without the s, for convenience sake, for conscious sake. I guess I made the mistake myself here. My bad. And then for some classical names, there are some names that are just out of habit, when they end in s or es, you usually add the apostrophe. But if it's one syllable, you usually add the apostrophe s. So Socrates' philosophy, Jesus' preaching, Moses' law, Zeus's adventures. So these are, two syllables. This one is just one, that's why you can add the apostrophe s. This is general guidelines. If you put an s, I doubt people would really see it as something wrong, but it's the usage that you will find more the most used forms. For plural noun, obviously you just add the apostrophe if it ends with an s, and if it doesn't end with an s, for example, children, you do add the apostrophe s. All right, nothing, I think for the most part you already know this rule. And then another rule I want to remind you about is the shared or individual possessives. So if you're talking about something that belongs to two or more people, then you will just put the apostrophe s in the last one. So for example, if you talk about Jack and John's house, it means that it's their house, both of their houses. There aren't two houses. Whereas if you're talking about Jack's and John's houses, then you're going to add the apostrophe s to both. Donc on met la marque de la possession sur les deux, si jamais c'est quelque chose qui appartient individuellement si chacun possède cette chose. All right. If you want more guidelines, you have some links. Okay. So ensuite, quick reminder of when you would use apostrophe s. So normally you use apostrophe s only for people or animals, or animated objects, or animated beings, I should say, to mark possession. Right? The child's ball, Beyonce's style, all of these are people or animals. There are quite a few examples. But there are certain exceptions to this rule. So for example, sometimes the structure of the sentence is going to force you to use of instead of apostrophe s. So anytime you have a sentence that qualifies the possessor, you probably will have to use of. So I think it'll be clearer with the example. The videos of Michael Jackson, who released Thriller in 1982, kickstarted the whole music video industry. You cannot say Michael Jackson's video who released Thriller in 1982 because you have this cette proposition relative that is qualifying Michael Jackson, so you cannot use the apostrophe s in this case. Same thing for this sentence, for these two sentences.
Okay.
Yep. Also, another thing you should be aware of is when you're referring to a group that is composed of individuals, you have to use of, right? So, but not if you're referring to part of an individual. So you have to distinguish the case where there's a group of individuals. So the majority of voters, you're talking about a group within a group of individuals, so you have to use of. But if you're talking about the part of an individual, it is like apostrophe S, like we've seen before. I don't know if this rule is clear, but basically when you're talking about groups and you're talking about a part of a group, then you use of. You cannot say the people's rest, the crowd's large part. I mean, you might find it for people who don't follow the rules strictly, but it's not really allowed. Okay?
Yeah.
Stop me at any time if it's not clear, of course. I'm just going to go through the rules quickly, and then we do have exercises. Yeah, and then just little reminders. If it's obvious, you can drop the apostrophe S. So, for example, on the left is my room, and on the right is my brother's. It's obvious that the word you're referring to is room, so you don't have to repeat it. The other cases where you don't have to put the word after the apostrophe S is for words like shop, house, church, cathedral. Usually we just say the butcher's. I went to Mark's. And you can sometimes refer to St. Paul's Cathedral or other cathedrals by just St. Paul's because it's clear that it's a church or a cathedral. All right. You can also use apostrophe S for time expressions and places. So you do say yesterday's newspaper, last month's appointment, New York's avenues, etc. And then for time periods, you can also use a week's holiday. But most of you tend to use a 1 week holiday, a 10 minutes walk, or a 10-minute walk. Both of these forms are acceptable. Just note that if you're using the noun plus noun, you shouldn't put the S. There is no S. But if you do use the apostrophe S at 10 minutes, then it is 10 minutes walk. All right?
Yep.
And last thing for apostrophe S, for organization, usually you can consider that it's kind of made out of people, so you can say the government's policy or the policy of the government. This is kind of a little bit of a gray zone, so you can kind of use both. All right. No questions? So then we can just talk about of. Of is usually for things, ideas, or parts, and especially there's some words that usually come with of, like beginning, end, top, bottom, middle, side, etc. So the owner of the restaurant, the back of the house. So if you say, so see, for example, you couldn't say house's back because it's not a person. And be careful because if you say the back house, then it's actually, it would mean that there's a house, and then at the back of it, there's another house, so it's like the house in the back. So you should be a little bit careful about those distinctions. Middle of the room, beginning of the performance, things like that. The exception to this rule is when you express the top and middle with an adjective plus noun. So the building's top floor, you can say, because there is the adjective and the noun, top floor. Okay, but if you're not sure, you can just use of, and then you just eliminate the risk.
Okay.
All right, and then the other possibility you have is noun plus noun. So just want to remind you, the first noun is usually the one that's used is the one that's the adjective. So if you're talking about garden vegetables, then you're talking about vegetables that were grown in a garden. If you're talking about a vegetable garden, you're talking about a garden with vegetables that are grown in it. All right, so word order is very important in this case. There are also a few other distinctions that you should be aware of. So a wine glass means it's a glass that's made to drink wine. But if you're talking about a glass of wine, then you're talking about a glass that has wine in it. So again, be careful about these kind of things. And just so you know, you can use multiple nouns, right? Table tennis, table You can don't go over like 2 or 3 nouns to qualify a noun, but just so you know, you can use multiple nouns to qualify the qualified. All of the things all of the examples, if you try to translate in French, will be usually table de ping-pong. Ouais. Donc à chaque fois, c'est la traduction de deux. Other rule that's important, the first noun is in singular form, even if it refers to plural. So you talk about toothpaste, you never say teeth paste. You talk about bookstore or bookshop, and you don't say books, even though there are multiple books. Which is also for those of you who were here when we were doing the writing workshop, when we said students with low income, but then with low incomes, and then when we put it into noun plus noun form, we say low income students.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind. Many of you made that mistake. Okay. Again, you can. So you usually when you're talking about if you want to use an adjective and include a number in it, usually you put a hyphen, a 3-page letter, and again, you don't put the S, even if it is 3 pages. I think all of you know that rule. And then last of all, if you're qualifying something that is used for doing something, the first word usually ends in ing. So une machine à laver, a washing machine. You use the pool for swimming, so etc. All right, I talked a lot, and so now it's time for you guys to put it into practice.
Yes. Donc on compte sur votre participation pour cette traduction. N'hésitez pas sur le chat à nous mettre vos propositions.
Yeah, if you finish the first sentence, don't hesitate to continue down the list, and we'll go through as many as we can together.
Okay.
All right. Okay, many of you have answered. Great. So, okay, there were actually a couple of things to be aware of when you're translating this first sentence. For those of you who use the word apartment in English, remember, so this is something that we saw on the video about anglicisme et fautes à éviter. Apartment in French has 2 P. And apartment in English has 1 P. So,
No.
Oops.
My bad.
So you should have been aware of that. But of course, if you use flat, it's fine. Other thing that you should have thought about is that en français, quand on met du pluriel sur un nom commun, on ne met bien sûr pas de S. On change pas je veux dire nom propre, pas nom commun. Nom propre, on change pas on ne met pas de S au pluriel. En anglais, on le fait, donc on marque the Smith's apartment. Et donc, dans ce cas, c'est bien la règle de pluriel, donc on ne met pas le S après. Voilà, donc du coup, techniquement, l'apostrophe était là. Ici, il aurait fallu mettre un S. Alors, c'est bien for sale.
Ouais, j'avais un doute.
Or on sale is also possible.
Ah, ça passe? Ok.
Actually, no. I mean, okay, so on sale could have the meaning of c'est en solde.
Ouais, c'est ça.
Sale. So be careful. Yeah, no, it's for sale, for rent and for sale for apartment.
Ouais, ok.
So it exists, but it doesn't really have the same meaning. Voilà, donc une petite phrase qui finalement avait quand même quelques pièges. Je sais pas si on avait des propositions YouTube.
Ouais, j'ai mis dans le chat, je te l'ai envoyé.
Ouais, donc I think it is to be sold. Mais... Là, apartment avec un seul P, and on sale. Ah non, je t'ai repris le... Pardon, je me suis trompée. La phrase, du coup, YouTube, elle est ici.
Ouais.
Donc c'est bien apostrophe ici, and to be sold. To be sold, c'est qu'elle va être vendue. Enfin, l'appartement va être vendu. En fait, pourquoi pas. Après, je pense que vraiment, quand on parle d'appartement à vendre, on utilise plutôt for sale. To be sold, c'est une proposition, en tout cas, qui grammaticalement est correcte, mais peut-être moins idiomatique pour le coup. Ok, c'est bien. On passe à la deuxième phrase.
Ouais.
Le magasin, ok.
Par contre, là, à part Alice, les gens ne participent pas, donc n'hésitez pas sur le chat à nous mettre vos propositions. Faites comme Alice. Ah, ok.
Il y a peut-être encore, je sais pas si on aura une participation de YouTube. Mais sinon, on peut commencer.
Il n'y a rien sur YouTube. Donc sur YouTube, on vous attend.
Alright, so...
Hop, ça c'est moi. J'ai mis ma proposition.
Okay. Alright, I think we have enough solutions. Right, so the difficulty you probably found in this sentence is le péché mignon. Mais je crois qu'on a pas mal de propositions qui soit ont trouvé, soit ont été un peu créatives. Et sinon, magasin de chaussures, donc c'est comme bookstore, shoe store. Au sens, et donc on met bien sûr pas le S. Et après, shoe store a tendance à être plutôt en deux mots. Il n'y a pas vraiment de règle pour s'il faut faire en deux mots, mettre un tiret ou attacher les mots quand on fait le nom plus la formation nom plus nom. Ça, c'est vraiment du cas par cas. Du coup, en l'occurrence, shoe store, c'est plutôt en deux mots. Voilà.
Alice va donner sa proposition.
De tirer. Shoe shop. Ok. On va mettre un peu plus d'espace. Alright, so yeah, shoe stores en deux mots, shoe shop, shoe stores, shoe shops, okay, are really my guilty pleasure. Yep. Are really or truly my guilty pleasure. Yeah, we have both solutions. Really are my great pleasure. Great pleasure, peut-être que... Great pleasure, c'est peut-être pas assez fort. Enfin, péché mignon, il y a quand même une idée que c'est un péché. Right, which you would translate in English by the word guilty. Enfin, vous rendez l'idée avec le mot guilty pleasure en anglais. Great pleasure, il n'y a pas cette idée de culpabilité ou que ce soit un péché. Du coup, c'est bien le sens. Enfin, vous traduisez une partie du sens, mais vous traduisez pas la totalité. Pareil pour I am addicted to shoe stores. I mean, c'est bien que vous ayez... du coup, j'imagine que cette personne n'avait pas le mot guilty pleasure en tête et a essayé de rendre l'idée, parce qu'il a compris que péché mignon, c'est aussi une question d'addiction. Du coup, en fait, c'est une traduction qui, je pense, est pas mal, parce qu'on a l'idée d'addiction qui est pas forcément... Enfin, qui, en général, est quelque chose qu'on essaye d'éviter. Et en même temps, ça montre qu'on aime ça. C'est pas la... Enfin, disons que la traduction exacte, c'est guilty pleasure, mais je salue cette traduction également. Are my great pleasure, donc c'est shoe shops really are my great pleasure. Donc on a 2 fois great pleasure. Maintenant vous savez que c'est plutôt guilty pleasure.
Okay.
Okay. Personne n'a corrigé après. Alright, donc en fait, il y a quand même un piège dans lequel vous êtes pour l'instant tous tombés. Ah, yes. Non, toujours pas. Alright. What am I referring to? Alors ça, pour le coup, c'est quelque chose à savoir par cœur. Deuxième amendement de la Constitution, c'est Second Amendment to the Constitution. Et c'est comme ça, il faut l'apprendre. Donc pas tous les of que je vois ici. Ici. C'est... faut pas se faire influencer par le français pour cette... ça, c'est de la civilisation. Enfin, c'est un peu de civilisation et aussi connaître la bonne... Pareil pour cette dernière phrase. Alors, gun owners. Ouais, gun owner refer to the... Du coup, ça c'est... Enfin, en fait, comme c'est un titre c'est un titre, enfin pas d'un ouvrage, mais d'un texte de loi, enfin pour le coup, vous pouvez pas vous amuser à changer. Donc c'est bien Second Amendment to the Constitution qu'il fallait utiliser to justify their right to bear arms, weapons. Right. Ok. Vous trouverez dans le Second Amendment to the Constitution, vous trouvez plutôt the right to bear arms. Mais je pense qu'on fait plus référence à the right. Enfin, c'est un peu une expression pas figée, mais plutôt right to bear arms. Mais right to bear weapons would work as well. It's just pour votre information. Gun holders, that's not really correct in the sense that a gun holder is someone that holds a gun. I'm not sure you can say gun holders for gun owners. Refer to, okay, so to justify their right to bear. The right, of bearing weapons. No, it's the right to do something. You cannot have the right of doing something. So this is, these are not correct. Gun owners refer to justify their right to carry arms. That's also a possibility. You carry arms. Shotgun, alors shotgun, un peu fort. Shotgun, comment on traduit? C'est a shotgun is it's that thing that you use in the long distance. Like it's not just a gun. It's a specific type of gun, so you cannot use that for this one because you're talking about gun owners in general. Après, du coup, pour se référer à la thématique d'aujourd'hui, c'est it doesn't work because shotguns is not an animated object. So you cannot put the apostrophe S. All right. So owners, à la rigueur, owners of guns or gun owners work very well. Make reference to. Alors, you can reference something and you can refer to something. And you can make a reference. But not in this case. Why not? Because I made a reference. En fait, to make a reference, I think c'est beaucoup plus l'ex de faire référence dans un essai. Par exemple, here I made a reference to this author to talk about this. Mais here I would say it's either reference something, donc soit to reference something directly or to refer to. The second amendment du coup of et pas to et pas of, to warrant their right to bear. To warrant, ça veut dire pour garantir. C'est pas exactement. Mais c'est intéressant. It's a good word in other circumstances. The owners of guns. Alors, pourquoi the? Alors, quand on parle d'un groupe et qu'on fait référence à l'entièreté du groupe, on utilise the. So when you're talking about the American people, you're literally talking about every single individual that's American. But if you're talking kind of like American people in general, then you wouldn't put the, right? Here, I would say that on parle de propriétaire d'armes à feu en général. Et du coup, j'accepterai pas le the. So gun owners or owners of gun. Yeah, c'est plus courant de trouver gun owners comme même refers to justify their right to bear arms. C'est their right to bear arms. Ça, c'est une expression un peu figée. All right. I think we have time for one more quick sentence. All right, let me try to find your...
Okay.
All right, so let's go quickly over la quatrième phrase. John's car keys, or the keys of John's car. Yeah, actually both would work. The car keys, Marwan, t'as oublié de John. Voilà. So John's car keys had fallen into. Attention aux propositions, c'est plutôt into, had fallen into a sewage hole. Had fallen, you could also say had fallen down a sewage hole, or you fall in or into something. Ok. Du coup, juste Nicolas, c'est pas correct. Had been fallen down. Soit tu dis had been falling down, but this is not the case right now, parce que ça voudrait dire était en train de tomber. Soit tu dis had fallen down, mais en tout cas, had been plus. Yeah, it's not. This is actually une erreur assez grave. Enfin, en l'occurrence, pardon, on enlève le been. Par contre, fallen down a drain, ça marche. Le in entre parenthèses, c'est fallen down in a drain. Le in traite trop. The keys of John's car had fallen donc in a sewer. Well, the car keys had fallen in a storm drain. Alors, storm drain, enfin, drain, ça suffit. Storm drain, c'est. Enfin, je sais pas, c'est une bouche d'égout pour évacuer les pluies de tempête, c'est un peu plus précis quand même. John's car key had fallen in a sewage. Yep. In sewers. Dans les égouts, je pense. In a sewage, dans un égout. I think you could say it had fallen in the sewers, but I don't know you could say in a sewage. Okay. Anyway, I had said a manhole. I don't think any of you have used that word, so it might be useful for you guys to learn. Manhole or drain, sewer drain, all of them would have worked. All right, so as usual, I've been putting up the proposition de correction for all the different sentences. You can see that actually la traduction de deux est en fait assez problématique. Enfin, peut poser des problèmes. So always be careful, que ce soit en termes grammatical ou en termes littéraires, to check that you're not doing something that is that you are trying to translate it correctly.
Ok. Right. Tu as un dernier point à faire, Margot, ou c'est bon pour toi?
No, I mean, unless there are some quick questions.
Oui, si vous avez des questions sur YouTube, c'est le moment, ou sur le chat, sur le live class, sur un point en particulier.
Je vois qu'il y avait certaines propositions YouTube qui avaient utilisé manhole and in the sewers, donc
ouais. Sinon, s'il n'y a pas de questions, moi, je dirais déjà merci Margot pour ces rappels. C'était très intéressant et on a appris d'ailleurs beaucoup de nouveaux mots, comme manhole, je ne connaissais pas du tout moi personnellement. Et merci à tous pour votre participation et de vous être réveillés avec nous pour démarrer cette semaine avec de l'anglais. Bien sûr, si vous avez aimé ce contenu, n'hésitez pas à mettre un like à la vidéo et à partager cette vidéo et à vous abonner à la chaîne si ce n'est pas encore fait. Quant à moi, je vous dis à demain pour un nouveau réveil MyPrepa. On va faire de l'économie avec Emmanuel Attias, notre expert en économie. Donc, merci à tous et bonne journée.